The ballroom lights glittered like false promises as my father's retirement party unfolded in all its scripted glory. Champagne flutes clinked. Laughter echoed off the crystal chandeliers, and there he stood at the podium, my dad, the self-made tycoon, basking in the applause of colleagues who'd never seen the man behind the mask. I sat at the family table, forcing a smile, my heart pounding like a drum in a storm. This was supposed to be his night, but deep down I knew it would become mine in ways I never imagined. The room was a sea of tailored suits and shimmering gowns, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and aged whiskey. Waiters glided between tables like ghosts, refilling glasses and offering trays of hors d'oeuvres that no one really touched. My father, Richard Harrington, had built his empire from nothing rags to riches story he loved to trot out at every opportunity. Harrington Industries, a conglomerate that spanned real estate, tech, and finance, was his life's work. And tonight, at 65, he was stepping down as CEO, passing the torch to my brother, Alex, who sat beside me with that smug, polished grin he'd inherited straight from Dad. Alex was the golden child, the one who'd followed in Dad's footsteps without a single misstep. Harvard Business School, internships at the family firm, rising through the ranks like a rocket. Me, Elena Harrington, the artistic one, as they politely called it. I'd chosen design school over spreadsheets, creativity over corporate ladders. To Dad, that made me a disappointment, a footnote in the family legacy. He'd never said it outright until tonight, but the undercurrents had always been their subtle digs at holidays. Eye rolls during dinner conversations about my latest project. I smoothed the fabric of my emerald green dress, the one I'd designed myself, drawing inspiration from Mom's old sketches. She would have loved this night, or at least pretended to for Dad's sake. But Mom had been gone for 8 years now, taken by cancer that moved as swiftly and mercilessly as one of Dad's business deals. She was the glue that held us together, the soft voice that balanced his sharp edges. Without her, the cracks had widened. Dad buried himself deeper in work, Alex emulated him, and I forged my own path, building a boutique design firm that specialized in sustainable architecture for nonprofits. It wasn't Harrington-level wealth, but it was mine, earned through late nights and rejected proposals. Yet, to Dad, it was all hobbies, not real achievement. The speeches had been droning on for what felt like hours. Colleagues praised his vision, his ruthlessness in negotiations, his ability to turn failing ventures into good. One after another, they painted him as a legend, a titan. I clapped along, my palms stinging from the effort. But inside, a storm brewed. Memories flashed unbidden. The birthdays he'd missed because of important meetings, the school plays where an empty seat mocked me, the way he'd dismiss my artwork with a curt "cute. But when are you going to get a real job?" Mom had always been my champion, slipping me extra allowance for art supplies, whispering encouragements when Dad's criticisms cut too deep. Now, as the MC introduced Dad for his final remarks, the room fell into a respectful hush. He adjusted his tie, that signature Harrington move, and stepped up to the microphone. His silver hair caught the light, making him look almost regal. "Thank you all," he began, his voice deep and commanding, the kind that filled boardrooms and silenced doubters. "It's been one hell of a ride, from starting in a garage with nothing but grit and a dream, to building an empire that employs thousands. None of it would have been possible without the support of my team." The crowd murmured approvals. He paused, scanning the faces, and I felt his eyes linger on our table. My stomach twisted. "Please, just keep it general," I thought. "Don't make this about us." But Dad had never been one for subtlety. "And to my family," he continued, raising his glass higher. "Alex, my son, who's ready to take the reins and make me proud. You've got the fire, kid? The drive." Alex nodded, beaming. The applause swelled again. Then, Dad's gaze shifted to me. Something cold flickered. In his eyes, a mix of disappointment and resignation I'd seen 1,000 times. "And, Elena," he said, his tone dipping just enough to hint at the barb to come. My daughter, well, she's always marched to her own beat, chasing those artistic passions, dreaming big in her own way. He chuckled, but it was hollow. Forse. The room joined in politely, but I could feel the shift to awkward undercurrent. I gripped my napkin under the table, twisting it until my knuckles whitened. Don't do this, Dad. Not here. But he pressed on, as if compelled by some inner script. Family's what keeps us grounded, right? Even when they test us, especially my useless daughter, who'll probably need me to bail her out forever. But hey, that's what dads are for. The words landed like a gut punch, sucking the air from the room. Useless. The laughter that followed was scattered, uncomfortable. Whispers rippled through the tables. Did he really say that? Ouch. My face burned, a flush creeping up my neck. I stared at my plate, the untouched salmon blurring through unshed tears. Alex shifted in his seat, shooting me a sympathetic glance, but he said nothing. No one leave. The applause resumed, but it felt distant, muffled by the roar in my ears. Useless. The word echoed, dredging up every insecurity I'd buried. I remembered the day I told him about my first big Clienta shelter for homeless women that I'd redesigned pro bono. He'd scoffed. Charity work. That's not building wealth, Elena. That's playing house. Or the time I'd won an award for innovative sustainable design. He'd sent a generic congratulations email, signed by his assistant. Mom would have framed it, thrown a party. But Dad? He saw weakness in my empathy, frivolity in my creativity. As the toast wrapped up and Dad sat down to thunderous applause, I excused myself, murmuring something about the ladies' room. The hallway outside the ballroom was mercifully quiet, the muffled sounds of the party fading behind me. I leaned against the wall, breathing deeply, fighting the sob that clawed at my throat. How could he? In front of everyone, his peers. My potential connections, the world that already viewed me as the Leslie Harrington dot, but beneath the hurt, a spark ignited. Anger, yes, but also resolve. I'd spent years proving myself to him, bending over backward for scraps of approval. No more. Mom had known this day might come. On her deathbed, her hand frail in mine, she'd whispered secrets she'd kept from Dad. I've set something aside for you, Elena. A trust. It's yours when you turn 30. Use it to fly, not to fight. I'd turned 32 weeks ago, quietly, without fanfare. The lawyer's envelope had arrived that morning, heavy with promise. $17 million. Invested wisely by Mom over the years, hidden from Dad's prying eyes. She hadn't trusted him not to meddle, to use it as leverage. Back in the ballroom, dessert was being served, decadent chocolate torts that turned to ash in my mouth. Conversations buzzed around me, but I was adrift, replaying the toast. Guests approached our table, offering congratulations to Dad and Alex, sparing me pitying smiles. One woman, a VP from the firm, leaned in. Your father's speech was candid, she said, her tone laced with false sympathy. I forced a nod. He's always been direct. Inside, I seethed. Candid. It was cruel, but it also clarified everything. I'd built my firm, Elena Designs, from a tiny apartment studio to a team of 10, focusing on projects that mattered: eco-friendly homes for low-income families, community centers that fostered art and healing. We'd just landed a grant for a major initiative in the city. Something that could change lives. Useless, hardly. Yet, Dad's words threatened to undermine it all, painting me as the family charity case. As the evening wore on, Dad mingled, shaking hands, his laughter booming. I hissed, keeping my voice low. That was public humiliation, Alex. And you just sat there, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. What was I supposed to do? Interrupt his big moment. Come on, you're overreacting. Overreacting. Another word that minimized me. But I wasn't. This was the culmination of years of being sidelined, of watching Alex get the praise while I got the pity. Mom had seen it too. That's why the trust existed, a safety net, but also a launch pad. Before marrying Dad, he'd always assumed it folded into the family fortune. To wind down, guests trickling out with goodie bags and I lingered, not ready to face the drive home with the family. Dad approached finally, clapping Alex on the back, before turning to me. "Good night, kiddo." It was enlightening. "Dad," he frowned, but before he could respond, a colleague pulled him away. I watched him go, the king of his domain, oblivious to the rift he'd widened. Little did he know, the real bombshell was ticking away in a lawyer's envelope, waiting to explode. Tomorrow, I'd open it fully, read the details, and plan my next move. I'd show him the world what a dreamer could achieve. But for now, in the quiet aftermath, I gathered my things. The weight of the evening pressing down, the drive home was silent, the city lights blurring past like the false promises of the ballroom. Home was my sanctuary, a loft I'd renovated, myself, filled with sketches and prototypes. There, alone, I let the tears come hot cathartic. Mum's photo on the mantel smiled back. Her eyes, "Kind, you got this," she'd say. And I did. The trust wasn't just money. It was validation, a whisper. From beyond that, I was enough. As sleep finally claimed me, dreams wove through the pain visions of expansion, of helping others rise, of a legacy that wasn't built on boardrooms, but on belief. Dad's words had shattered something. Yes, but from the pieces, I'd build something unbreakable. As the applause for his toast faded into awkward murmurs, I excused myself from the table, my heels clicking like accusations on the marble floor. The grand ballroom, once a stage for celebration, now felt like a cage closing in. I pushed through the heavy doors, the cool night air slapping my face, like a wake-up call. Clutching my phone, I leaned against the stone balustrade of the hotel's terrace, the city skyline twinkling indifferently below. Useless. The word looped in my mind, a venomous echo that drowned out the distant hum of traffic. How could he say that? In front of everyone, his empire's elite, the people who'd whisper about it for weeks. But beneath the sting, a deeper truth simmered. Mom had known. She'd always known. I closed my eyes, breathing in the crisp March air, and let the memories flood back. Mom, Sophia Harrington, wasn't just Dad's wife. She was a force in her own right. Before marrying him, she'd been a financial whiz, turning a modest inheritance from her parents into a portfolio that rivaled his early ventures. But she played the supportive role, the elegant hostess, while quietly building her own nest egg. 4 rainy days, she'd say with a wink, but I knew it was more. It was insurance against a world and a husband that undervalued women like us. On her deathbed, 8 years ago, her voice barely above a whisper amid the beeps of hospital machines, she'd pulled me close. "Elena, my sweet girl, I've left you something. A trust fund, 17 million, give or take. It's yours, at 30. Don't tell your father. He'll try to control it. This is your freedom. Don't let him clip your wings." I'd nodded then, tears streaming, thinking it was just her way of comforting me in her final moments. But 2 weeks ago, on my 30th birthday, a quiet affair with takeout and a solo toast to Mom, the envelope arrived. Thick. Official. From her longtime lawyer. Inside, documents detailing investments in tech startups, real estate, and bonds that had grown exponentially. All mine, untouchable by Dad or anyone else. She'd structured it perfectly, with clauses ensuring independence. Dad knew nothing. She'd kept it separate from their joint assets. A secret act of rebellion against his domineering ways. The party sounds drifted out. Clinking glasses. Forced laughter. I couldn't hide forever. Straightening my dress, I slipped back inside, the warmth of the room contrasting sharply with the chill in my veins. The band played soft jazz, guests milling about with dessert plates in hand. Dad was at the center, regaling a group with another war story from the boardroom. Alex hovered nearby, ever the dutiful heir. I returned to my seat, avoiding eyes, but the whispers followed me like shadows. Poor Elena, I imagined them saying. Always the black sheep. Dessert arrived, rich tiramisu dusted with cocoa, but it might as well have been sawdust. Primetta poked at it, my mind racing. Stay silent. Let his words fester. No. Mom's gift wasn't just money. It was a voice, amplified. As the waiter cleared plates, I stood, my chair scraping loudly enough to draw attention. The room quieted, forks pausing midair. Dad looked up, surprise flickering across his face. Alex's eyes widened in warning. Dad, I began, raising my glass, with a hand that barely trembled. A toast to you, my voice carried, steady despite the storm raging inside, a mix of fury, grief, and triumphant release. The murmurs ceased entirely. For building this empire from nothing. For the lessons in resilience you've taught us all. I paused, letting the words hang. Guests leaned in, sensing the shift. And especially for tonight's honesty. For calling me your useless daughter. Because it's freed me from chasing your approval or fearing your bailouts. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dad's face drained of color, his glass frozen halfway to his lips. I reached into my purse, fingers brushing the envelope like a talisman. With deliberate calm, I slid it across the table toward him. This is from Mom, I said, my voice cracking for the first time. She believed in me when you didn't. A trust fund. $17 million. All hers earned, invested, and hidden from you. It's mine now. No strings, no control. He fumbled the envelope open, scanning the pages. The room erupted in hushed exclamations. 17 million. Someone whispered. Alex stared at me, mouth agape. Dad's hands shook, his empire builder facade crumbling. Sophia? ... She did this, he muttered, more to himself than anyone. Tears broke free from my eyes, hot trails down my cheeks, not from the old pain, but from this cathartic unveiling. It was release, pure and raw. Mom's final gift, not just wealth, but vindication. The party dissolved into chaos after that. Guests approached tentatively, offering awkward congratulations or condolences, I couldn't tell which. Dad retreated to a corner, barking at his assistant to fetch his coat. Alex pulled me aside, his face a mask of confusion and envy. What the hell? You knew about this and didn't say anything. It wasn't yours to know, I replied, wiping my tears. Mom wanted it this way. For me? He shook his head. These changes everything. Dad's going to freak. Let him, I said, a newfound steel in my voice. I'm done. The drive home was tense. Dad silent in the front seat, Alex fidgeting beside me. No one spoke. At the family estada, sprawling mansion that always felt more like a museum than a home, I bid them goodnight and retreated to my old room, the one Mom had decorated with my childhood art. There, in the quiet, I unpacked the envelope fully, spreading documents across the bed. Statements showed growth, stocks in renewable energy, properties in emerging markets, even a stake in an art foundation. Mom's handwriting on a sealed note inside. Fly high, my dreamer. Love always, Mom. Sleep came fitfully, dreams weaving triumph and loss. Morning brought the fallout. Dad's call came early, his voice gruff over the line. Elena, we need to talk. About last night, ... I was out of line. The toast, it was the whiskey talking. Was it, Dad? I asked, staring out at the manicured lawns. Or was it the truth you've always felt? A pause. Your mother, ... She never told me. That money could have gone to the business. It wasn't yours, I said firmly. And it's not about the money. It's about you seeing me as less than Alex. Less than you. He sighed, the sound heavy with age. I pushed you hard because I wanted you safe. The world chews up dreamers and spits out tyrants, I countered, but softer. I'm building something real, Dad. My firm helps people design spaces that heal, that inspire. With this, I can do more. We talked haltingly, his apologies stumbling out in fragments. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. In the months that followed, I dove into transformation. The trust fund became fuel for purpose, not pettiness. I expanded Elena Designs into a non-profit arm, Dreamers Forge, dedicated to mentoring useless creatives, artists, inventors, activists dismissed by the corporate grind. We offered grants, workshops, my first project, a community center in the city's underserved neighborhoods, with studios for free use. Applications flooded. In stories of single moms painting, murals, kids coding apps, elders crafting stories, each one echoed my own journey. The media caught wind. Of course, headlines blared, Harrington heiress turns insult into empire. Interviews followed, what I shared mom's story, not dad's slight. It humanized me. Drew donors. Alex reached out. More curious about my ventures. Maybe I could collaborate, he suggested once, over coffee. Harrington Industries has resources, only if it's equal, I said. No takeovers. He laughed. Deal. Dad. He thawed slowly. Invitations to family dinners came, laced with tentative pride. At one, he toured my new office, a converted warehouse, buzzing with energy. Not bad, kiddo, he grunted, eyeing a blueprint. Reminds me of your mom's sketches? It should, I replied. She inspired it all. That night, back in my loft, I raised a glass to the stars. The inheritance had unveiled more than wealth. It revealed my strength, forged in mom's love and dad's fire. I wasn't just his daughter anymore, I was Elena, architect of my fate, rising from the ashes of his words into a legacy of light. The journey wasn't over. Challenges loomed: bureaucracy, skeptics, the weight of millions, but with mom's wings, I soared. Word by word, project by project, I reclaimed useless as a badge of honor. For every dreamer out there, this me said, doubting, I built bridges. And in quiet moments, I felt mom's presence, whispering, well done.